Good evening. Tonight, an unprecedented scene is unfolding on the streets of Los Angeles. For the first time in decades, active-duty United States Marines have been deployed to a major American city in a law enforcement capacity. Approximately 700 Marines are now patrolling key federal sites, a stark symbol of the escalating crisis gripping Southern California. This dramatic move by the Pentagon, authorized by President Trump, comes after 4 straight days of intense and often violent protests against recent immigration and customs enforcement operations. The city holds its breath as these highly trained soldiers take up positions, a development that has deepened the divide between state and federal authorities and pushed a tense situation to a potential breaking point. The deployment marks a significant escalation in domestic security operations. The decision to send in the Marines, a force typically reserved for overseas combat, reflects the White House's view that the situation has spiraled beyond the control of local and even state-level authorities. These troops are not just a show of force, they are armed and have been given a clear mission to protect federal personnel and property. Their presence alongside the already mobilized National Guard transforms parts of Los Angeles into a federally controlled security zone. The sight of combat-ready Marines on American soil, tasked with managing civil unrest, raises profound questions about the use of military power within our own borders. The unit at the heart of this deployment is the 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines, from the 1st Marine Division based at 29 Palms, California. These are seasoned infantry troops, experts in a wide range of combat scenarios. Under the command of Major General Scott Sherman of Task Force 51, their stated mission is to seamlessly integrate with the National Guard forces already on the ground. They are equipped with standard-issue weapons and have received training in crowd control and de-escalation tactics. However, their primary role remains clear: to form a hardened security perimeter around federal assets, including the very ICE facilities that have become the focal point of public anger and protest. Los Angeles now finds itself in an extraordinary state of tension. The city has become the epicenter of a national conflict over immigration policy, state sovereignty, and presidential authority. While federal officials insist this deployment is necessary to restore order and prevent further destruction, California's leaders see it as a dangerous and unlawful overreach. The deployment of the 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines, is more than just a security measure. It is a powerful political statement. As night falls, the presence of these troops serves as a constant, visible reminder of the deep and volatile divisions that have brought a great American city to this critical juncture. The crisis began last Friday, June 6th, ignited by a series of high-profile ICE raids across the Los Angeles area. Federal agents conducted sweeps that resulted in the arrest of over 100 immigrants in just 1 week, targeting locations like the bustling Fashion District and a Home Depot parking lot known for day laborers. These actions, perceived by many as aggressive and indiscriminate, quickly sparked outrage. The situation reached a boiling point with the arrest of David Huerta, the influential president of SEIU California, during one of the initial demonstrations. His detention galvanized a broad coalition of labor unions, immigrant rights groups, and activists, transforming localized anger into a massive, citywide movement. Over the weekend, the protests swelled in size and intensity. Thousands of demonstrators took to the streets, their frustration and anger palpable. They shut down major arteries of the city, including a full blockage of the busy 101 freeway, bringing traffic to a standstill for hours. The demonstrations became increasingly confrontational. In some of the most dramatic scenes, protesters set fire to several self-driving Waymo vehicles, turning the symbols of futuristic technology into blazing emblems of their defiance. The protests were no longer peaceful marches. They had become a direct and disruptive challenge to the authorities, creating a volatile atmosphere that grew more precarious with each passing day. Law enforcement's response was swift and forceful. The Los Angeles Police Department, struggling to contain the escalating unrest, declared multiple demonstrations to be unlawful assemblies. Officers in riot gear deployed crowd control measures including tear gas, rubber bullets, and flashbang grenades to disperse the large gatherings. These clashes led to dozens of arrests on charges ranging from failure to disperse to more serious offenses, such as the throwing of a Molotov cocktail at a police line. The cycle of protest and forceful police response created a feedback loop of escalating tension, with each side's actions fueling the other's resolve and deepening the sense of crisis across the city. The anger was not confined to Los Angeles. In a show of solidarity, similar protests erupted in San Francisco, where an ICE office building was vandalized with graffiti, eggs, and red paint, symbolizing the protesters' view of the agency's actions. Nearly 150 people were arrested in the Bay Area disturbances, though most were later released. The coordinated nature of these protests across California demonstrated a widespread and organized opposition to federal immigration policies. It was this sustained and widespread civil unrest marked by property damage and direct confrontations with law enforcement, that ultimately prompted the White House to take the extraordinary step of federal intervention. In response to the escalating chaos, President Trump made a decisive move. Citing the need to protect federal property and personnel, he first ordered the California National Guard to be federalized and deployed into Los Angeles over the weekend. This action itself was highly unusual, as it was done without the request or consent of California's governor. By Monday, June 9th, approximately 1,000 Guard troops were on the ground, with another 1,000 expected to arrive. The president defended his decision forcefully, stating that the city would have been completely obliterated without the Guard, and praising the troops for doing a fantastic job where he claimed local leaders had failed. The situation escalated further on Monday with the Pentagon's order to deploy the 700 active-duty Marines. This step was justified by the Trump administration under a legal provision that permits the use of federal troops to address a rebellion or danger of a rebellion. This invocation of what is effectively a limited form of the Insurrection Act is a measure rarely used in modern American history. A statement from U.S. Northern Command confirmed the Marines' objective was to support the National Guard in protecting federal interests, creating a unified federal security force operating on sovereign state land, against the wishes of the state's elected government. This federal intervention has been met with fierce opposition from California officials who view it as a gross violation of states' rights and a dangerous political maneuver. Governor Gavin Newsom vehemently condemned the deployment as unlawful and a serious breach of state sovereignty. He formally requested that President Trump withdraw all federal troops, accusing the president of deliberately instigating violence for his own political benefit. Trump wants chaos, Newsom declared in a public statement. He is trying to create a spectacle to rally his base. Don't give him the excuse he's looking for. The governor's words framed the conflict as a manufactured crisis. The legal battle lines were drawn almost immediately. California Attorney General Rob Bonta announced the filing of 2 major lawsuits against the Trump administration. The first lawsuit directly challenges the constitutionality of federalizing the state's National Guard without the governor's consent, an action not seen since the Civil Rights era in 1965. The second lawsuit targets the administration's attempts to tie federal law enforcement grants to state cooperation with federal immigration enforcement. Bonta called the deployment a clear abuse of authority, asserting that the president is trying to manufacture chaos and crisis on the ground for his own political ends, setting the stage for a historic legal showdown. The deployment has exposed the raw, deep divisions in American society, with public reaction splitting along predictable political lines. For the protesters on the streets of Los Angeles, the arrival of the Marines is seen as a terrifying escalation. To them, it is proof that the federal government is willing to use military force to suppress dissent and enforce immigration policies they consider unjust and inhumane. Activist groups have called the move a declaration of war on their communities and have vowed to continue their demonstrations, framing their struggle as a fight for the soul of the nation against an authoritarian regime. Their resolve appears only to have hardened in the face of military presence. Conversely, supporters of the president and the federal action see the deployment as a necessary and overdue step to restore law and order. Many have taken to social media and news forums to express their approval, arguing that the protesters had crossed a line from peaceful demonstration to violent rioting. To them, the images of burning cars and blocked freeways were evidence of a city descending into anarchy, failed by its progressive state leadership. They view the Marines not as an occupying force but as protectors of federal law and property, and they echo President Trump's criticism of Governor Newsom for being afraid of doing anything to control the situation. This conflict between state and federal power is now playing out in real time, with significant implications for the future of American federalism. The legal challenge brought by California is a landmark case that could redefine the boundaries of presidential authority and a state's right to govern itself. If the courts side with the Trump administration, it could set a precedent allowing future presidents to deploy troops domestically with fewer checks and balances. If California prevails, it would serve as a powerful rebuke to federal overreach. The outcome of this legal fight will reverberate far beyond California's borders, potentially altering the delicate balance of power for generations to come. As we stand today, June 9, 2025, Los Angeles remains a city on a knife's edge. The Marines are in position, the protesters remain defiant, and the political and legal battles are just beginning. The immediate future is uncertain. The potential for a direct confrontation between protesters and armed federal troops is dangerously high. The nation watches, waiting to see if a path toward de-escalation can be found, or if the streets of Los Angeles will become the stage for a deeper, more tragic conflict. The events of the coming days will not only determine the fate of this city, but could also define the character of our nation.